Okay, so since there's so many different types of steel tongue drums on the market now, I thought I'd do a quick video to show some key differences between different types. So while these ones here are more like steel tongue drums, this new instrument, the New Wave 15 drum by Kosmosky, I would say is more like a steel tongue pan. And while you can see the obvious differences in size, well, tongue drums typically range from like 6 to 14 inches, and these ones are like 12, which I think is a good size for tongue drums. This one is 15 inches in diameter. But besides the size, the main difference that I think really makes them into a different instrument is that the steel tongue drums have like these flatter pans that are fused together that you can see here. While on this steel tongue pan, you can see that these are like very convex pans that are fused together that are rounded outward. And that makes a really big difference in the playing style and the sound that these instruments create. So while these instruments are steel tongue drums, this New Wave 15 is really more like a hand pan in the way that you play it and how it sounds, except that it has tongues instead of indents for notes. So it's kind of like a hybrid between a hand pan and a steel tongue drum. And one of the advantages of that is just in the way that you play it, because it has this convex surface instead of more of a flat surface. The hand position is a little bit more natural than when you're playing it on a flat surface on a steel tongue drum. It's subtle, but the way that your hands are positioned is a little bit more like this, which is a more natural position to hold your hands, versus on a tongue drum, when you play, it's a little bit more in this style, versus the more natural hand position that you would see people playing like a hand pan with, and now you play like those steel tongue pans in that same manner as well. One of the other key differences between these steel tongue drums and more of these tongue pan instruments is that because they're bigger, you have more of a surface area to kind of knock them and hit them percussively on the side without playing any melodic notes. And that's a lot harder to do on these steel tongue drums. So I'll show you an example of that here. So you can almost like knock it or slap it where, you know, a snare drum would be or something like that, where if you try to do that on a tongue drum, you can, but it's a lot less natural and doesn't sound as good. So one of the other important differences between these types of instruments, I think, is the quality of sound in playing with mallets versus playing with your hands. While both of them obviously can be played with hands and mallets, I just think that steel tongue drums sound quite a bit better when you're playing with mallets, while the quality of sound is a little bit more similar when playing with these, which just makes it a little bit more intuitive and inspiring to play with your hands, which I feel like is how these instruments are meant to be played, since you have that much more control. And I'll give you an example of that. So that's playing with my hands, and then with mallets. Well, let's try that similar thing on a steel tongue drum. Which is playing with hands, and then with the mallet. Which I think the mallet just helps it sound less metallic, I would say is a good description of that. And now we'll try on this drum, playing with hands. And with mallet. So you can see the difference there. So the last thing I want to demonstrate is just the differences in sounds between these types of instruments. While these tongue drums tend to be more mellow and subdued and bell-like and metallic-like, the tongue pans are also bell and metallic-like a little bit, but tend to be a little bit more brighter and vibrant, sort of more like a hand pan. So you'll see the difference here. Overall, it is a subjective difference. Some people might like the more mellow sound of the tongue drum, while others might like the brighter sound of the pan. But overall, it's not a super fair comparison because these two are higher quality drums, and you'll see the difference in quality of sound overall, as well. So I'm just going to play the same notes on each of the drums and you can see the differences from there. And the last thing to note is that if you did like the sound of this drum in the demo video, Kosmosky, the maker of this drum, sent a discount link in the description of this video for 10% off if you're interested. And that's everything.